Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and for this sure to be fantastic webinar featuring our very own travel professional community business expert, Geoff Millar. Now, Geoff and his lovely wife, Sharon, operate a very successful agency in Arizona, and we thank you so much, Geoff, for sharing your expertise with everyone. You know, I may have mentioned this to you before, but I read this quote from the Dalai Lama, and if this is true, Geoff, you're going to live a very, very, very long time, my friend. And that is if you share your knowledge, that it's a way to achieve immortality. So I don't know if you want immortality, but
Yeah,
but you're well on your way.
Some days the way I feel, I don't know if I want immortality.
Well, the way you share with agents and you give your knowledge so freely and so openly, you are really an amazing mentor in this industry. So I'll tell you all a little bit about Geoff. If you've not had the opportunity to meet Geoff at one of the Cruise Worlds or other travel events, Geoff's been in the industry, he spent 45 years in senior sales management involved with the data processing industry with companies like Control Data, Boeing, and data processing division of Chase Manhattan Bank. And he retired as vice president of sales for them. And then along with his wife, Sharon, who was a travel agent, they have an agency, and this growing business has been absolutely amazing. It's a multi-million-dollar agency. And they use a number of different websites, internet, and through specialization. They're really amazingly successful agency. And since starting his agency, Geoff's been involved with websites and using those websites and the internet to promote their agency for over 15 years now. And these efforts now generate over 150 leads a week and have been instrumental in growing their agency business to the level that it is today. So needless to say, we have a whole lot to learn from Geoff Millar. And so we're going to get started without any further interruption. And Geoff, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and then I'm going to move the slides for you. So just give me the cue when you're ready to move the slides, okay?
Okay, so we can go to the next one.
Well, you'd think so.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Woohoo!
Can you go back one?
Oh no, I can't do that. Don't ask me to do those sort of things, guys. Okay, here we go.
Okay, what I just wanted to cover is Joni covered it greatly as far as greatly. Isn't that a Trump term, greatly? But
oh gosh, did it go away again?
Whoop! Now it went away again. So, but I can give it. I can give it from memory. So
Joni, I can still see it. Joni, I can still see it. Just go into presentation mode again.
This is so bizarre. There we go.
There we
okay.
go.
We are professionals.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry in a minute. Okay.
Okay. What I wanted to point out on here is that we really believe in specialization, and that 98% of our sales come from our specialty, and we market and sell on a national basis. All the rest Joni covered in a great way. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll get started on the main part of the presentation. The points we're going to cover, this whole area that we're going to cover today is going to be focused on really qualifying a client, educating a client, and selling our unique product, which is ourselves, our knowledge, our experience, and our service. So we're going to go through a sales process, and I really feel that the qualification process is probably the main area of concentration that we need to focus on when we're going through the sales process, because that's going to determine if you want to work with that client or you don't want to work with the client. Conversely, there's some things we have to do because the client's doing the same thing. They're qualifying you to determine whether they want to work with you. So the points we're going to cover is answering the phone. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to pick up the phone, but we're going to cover on what you should do when you answer the phone. The opening conversation, educating a potential client on you and your business, qualifying questions for the potential client, and educating the client on the product they're looking for based on the qualification steps and the answers that you get for those questions. If you look at that, half of that from the beginning down to the halfway point have nothing to do with travel. They really have to do with developing a relationship with that potential client, understanding what they want. And what that gets away from is, I've heard a number of agents when they answer the phone and somebody says, well, I want to go to an all-inclusive resort for 7 nights. They'll jump right in and say, oh, I know the perfect place for you. Well, you're doing that without understanding what the client is really looking for. And even if they know what they're looking for and they think that they want a particular resort, our statistics through our 16 years show that 40% of all clients who ask for a specific resort end up booking something other than that resort, simply because when you go through the qualification process, you understand that that resort really doesn't fit what they're looking for. So that's why this whole process, and it is a process, needs to be gone through in detail to understand what the client's looking for before you start to recommend products. Next slide. This is just a picture of a sales pipeline. You have a whole bunch of junk going in the top. And by junk, I mean is basically unqualified prospects. And what you have in the sales game is you have suspects and you have prospects. What goes in the top of this funnel is suspects. What goes on in this funnel is narrowing out some of those suspects and ending up with prospects. And then what runs out the bottom of the funnel are the sales to those prospects. What we're going to cover today is going to help you get more sales going through that funnel and wasting less time with people that really aren't qualified, that really are not serious. There again, they remain suspects and not prospects. So next slide. We're going to start with answering the phone, and that seems like a very basic task, but it can be critical to how that relationship begins with the client. What it's going to do, it's going to set the tone of the conversation that's going to follow, and it's the first impression the client has of you. And I think this is important because, again, I've seen so many. I was in an agency and with one of our suppliers, and somebody answered the phone and they said, hi, this is so-and-so, what can I do for you? In that tone of voice. So that does not start out the conversation in a great note. So it's the first step in building the potential client's confidence in you and your business, which is what you're trying to do. You're not trying to be their best friend, although some clients do develop into best friends, but you are trying to get them to have confidence in you and your business. So it should be pleasant, confident, polite, and businesslike. How many calls have we gotten from salespeople that say, hey, buddy, how you doing? I mean, that just turns me off. First of all, I'm not your buddy. I don't know who you are. So, keep it pleasant, confident, polite, and businesslike. That's the key, is still keep it on a businesslike level. Smile. And believe me, that does come through. In some sales training that I attended in my earlier years, they would have you answer the phone and they had a mirror set up right in front of you so that you could see what you looked like when you answered that phone and when you carried on that conversation. And it does come through. If you're not smiling, if you're not in a good mood, it's going to come through to that potential client on the other end, and that's going to be strike one against you that they're going to do in their evaluation. And an example of how to answer the phone. The way I would do it is, hi, this is Geoff Millar with Ultimate All-Inclusive Travel. How may I help you today? Something on that where it's positive, it's upbeat, but it's still professional. So trust me, how you answer the phone really has a huge impact on setting the rest of the conversation and helping develop that relationship with that client. Next step. The opening conversation that you have with your client is, first of all, ask the potential client how you may help them, as we said. Now what you want to do is sit back and do not interrupt, listen. And there's an old saying in sales that if you are talking more than 30% of the time in a sales call, you're talking too much. And there's the other one is that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. But don't interrupt when you ask how to help them. Listen, you're going to get a lot of information from them. And don't interrupt them while they're talking. Once they finish, repeat back what you've heard. What that does, it shows you that they're listening. It also buys you a few seconds or minutes or whatever to formulate your answer to what they're saying. Start questions to better understand what they're looking for. So now is when you're going to start the qualifying questions. But in doing that, use both open-ended and closed-ended questions where appropriate. An open-ended question was, how did you enjoy your last vacation? That allows them to expound on it. A closed-ended question would be, did you enjoy your last vacation? That can be answered with a yes or no. What you can do by using open-ended and closed conversation is you can steer that conversation where you need it to go without basically telling the client that you're steering the conversation. You do it by the type of questions that you ask. And the more questions you ask and sit back and listen, the more information you're going to get. Take notes. This is one of those things, and I just saw something on the internet today. Somebody said, my biggest mistake is I always tell myself, I don't need to write it down. I can remember that. Well, you can't remember it, especially if you're doing a detailed qualification like this. You are not going to remember everything. And you say, oh, it's one client. I don't need to write it down. I'll remember it, and I'll put my notes down after the conversation takes place. Take notes while you're talking with the client. The information you get in this first opening conversation gives you the first opportunity to end this call and end this relationship. If it's not somebody, say you sell a particular specialty and that's all you sell, and somebody calls and they say they're looking something that is totally out of the realm of what you do, this will give you that first opportunity to end that call. Why would you want to end that call? You may want to end that call simply because it's going to save you time. It's not going to waste their time. Another thing that you can add to that is if it's something you don't do, maybe you have an independent contractor, or maybe you have another agent that you work with that this is their specialty. You can now get their information, pass that on to that IC or that, and have them work with that particular client. But this is the first opportunity to make a decision. Which one of those branches do you want to take? Do you want to refer it? Do you want to end the call? Or do you want to kind of continue the conversation? Next slide. Now's where you want to, again, realize we haven't talked about any product yet. You want to educate the client about you and your business, because remember, this client is qualifying you just as much as you're qualifying them to determine that they want to work with you. So this starts off with everything that I start virtually every one of my presentations with is clients can buy travel from multiple sources. So travel is not a unique product. They can buy that anywhere. So what you have to do in this section is sell yourself, your experience, your knowledge, and your service. And what you're selling them is why they should do business with you. If not, what's going to happen if you jump right into travel and you start throwing out prices and you start doing this, you are just going to become another source that they've looked at. And believe me, they are out looking at other sources. So what you want to do in this section is educate them about yourself and your business to make you stand out from the other 5 sources that they're looking at as far as booking products. Stress the knowledge of the product they're looking for. Focus on experience and knowledge. Those are really the only 2 things that you have that are unique products. It's 3 if you want to throw in yourself, your experience, and your knowledge. Those are the unique products we have. So that's why you really want to focus on this. The way you can do that is use your expanded elevator speech. And I'm sure everybody, I'm not going to go into how to develop an elevator speech, because I know Tom and Joni have done a bunch of webinars and written books on how to develop an elevator speech. But basically, it's going to tell you who you are, what you do, and why they should buy from you. And use your expanded elevator speech in this case, not just your regular elevator speech, because you've got to go through, this is your main sales process right here, is selling yourself. Stress knowledge of the product they're looking for. This is where specialization really helps. And I'll tell you from our experience, and by us doing everything in a specialized manner, by the time we get through the qualification process, we already know the 3 or 4 top resorts that we're going to recommend to them. So we don't have to go out and do any research. We don't have to go out and look at 50 resorts to come up with those. We know which ones we know which ones. And that's the beauty of specialization. It allows you to learn a product in total depth and understand everything. I know an agent in Florida that her specialization is selling nothing but suite level cabins and higher on Royal Caribbean. And she makes a very good living just doing that, because she can tell you the color of the chair on this ship and on this cruise line, this ship, she can tell you what the color of the chair is. So she knows the product in that much detail. We know it. We have an agent who can tell the client who the best bartender is at the swim-up bar at a particular resort, which wing of that resort to stay in that has the best room service and has the best maid service in that room. When you reach that level, now you can say that you specialize in a particular product. So you can sell everything you want, but be an expert in something. Stress the service that you're going to provide them, because that's one of the unique things that you provide that other people aren't going to provide. So stress that. Use real life stories to demonstrate an experience. I'm big on that. Last week somebody will ask for a particular resort or they'll ask for a vacation. They say, wow, last week we just sent a client to this particular resort. They had a great time. This is what they liked about it. Boom, boom, boom. So know that product inside and out. Sell yourself and your agency. That's what you're doing here. Is you're selling yourself and your agency. Do not speak negatively about the competition. That is a big no-no in sales. And I, in my younger days when I first started, learned that business to business sales, we did a sales call, and we proceeded, and I basically the competition. That was what turned out the person I was selling. So don't knock the competition. What you want to do is sell your strengths against their weakness. But don't point out their weakness. Just sell, we can offer you a payment plan. We can hold this for you with your names and dates of birth for 24 hours before you have to put any money down. What you're doing is you're taking your strengths and you're comparing it against the competition's weaknesses, but you're not knocking the competition. So sell your strengths against their weaknesses, but don't knock the competition. Once you've gone through this and you really explained to them what you do, what you're going to do for them, what you're going to provide for them, how you're an experience, anything they're ever dealing with, this is when you charge to introduce this process. We just had somebody that called last week. I called another agency, and the person on the phone, they couldn't unless I paid them $50. That's not the point and the time that you're going to introduce fees. Introduce fees after you've explained and told them exactly what you're going to provide them for those fees. Then you can introduce fees. Don't feel comfortable. So introduce it at a time and make it the next step in the process. Next.
Hey, Brett, I'm going to go ahead and do next slide for you, Jeff. I just want to let you know you're breaking up quite a bit, so I'm not sure if you moved around
Oh,
or
okay.
I just wanted to let you know because it just kind
Okay.
of that
I'll
last couple
I'll
minutes.
I'll try to sit still and
Okay. I talk with my hands, so I can totally get it.
I
So I just
know
wanted
that's
to
what I
let you
do. I do.
no, I'm the same way. All right, here we go.
Okay. Now, qualifying the potential client. That's what we're going to get into. What we've done is we've educated the client. Now we're going to qualify the client. And remember, in qualifying a potential client, it's not the question you ask, but how you ask it. And this has become apparent in some of the qualifying questions. The big one is when you ask about their budget. It's not how you ask it, it's how you ask the question, not the question that you ask. For instance, if it's a budget issue, somebody may say, well, what's your budget? A better way to do that is, how much money do you not want me to exceed in pricing this vacation for you? And we get probably, I would have to say, 98 to 99% of the people that will provide us a budget with the little tricks to do that. And we'll get into that when we get to that particular question. Determine if they are a real potential client. That's what you're doing when you're qualifying that client. Are they a suspect or are they a prospect? And determine if you want to work with them. I mean, I've had some people in just the conversation, their tone of voice, what they're asking, and they ask things in a threatening manner, that, hey, this is not somebody that I really want to work with. And it requires answers to questions that may be hard to ask. For instance, the budget question. For some reason, that seems very hard for a lot of people to ask what the budget is, when it's really just one step in the whole process. So it's going to require that you get answers. But remember, go back to point one. It's not the question you ask, but how you ask that question. Next. Was my voice better?
It is better. It's still breaking up a little bit, but it's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So here, what I've done is put together a list of the key information that you want to gather during the qualifying step. It's not necessarily all the information that you could gather, but you need to gather at least this information. One of the first ones is, what type of vacation are they looking for? Are they looking for a family vacation? Are they looking for a romantic vacation? Are they looking for a destination? Are they looking for a honeymoon? What do they want to experience on that vacation? Where have they vacationed in the past? That is a critical question, and I'll tell you why. And we just had somebody do that. They called up and they said they wanted a luxury, top quality, 5-star resort, and they wanted it for $2,000. Now, your natural reaction is going to be, not going to happen. You're not getting that for $2,000. But I asked the question is, where have you vacationed in the past? And where do you stay when you travel? And they said, oh, we stay at the top resorts. We stay at Residence Inn. Okay, so that now tells me that Residence Inn is their definition and level of a high quality resort. So maybe what they want can be done, because a high level luxury resort, in my eyes, is different than in their eyes. So now I'm gonna look based on what they're considering a high level resort. So I just read an article and it said the two overused words in the travel business are luxury and deal, because they have so many different meanings depending on who's asking that question. I get that. We get people who'll call and say, I want a deal. And I'll ask them, okay, define a deal for me. Most of them, probably 50% of them, can't define a deal. They just know, it's drilled in their head, that's what they want. And I tell them a deal is the product that fits what you're looking for and is within your budget. The deal isn't necessarily, a lot of people equate deal with the lowest price. The deal may not be the lowest price, but it's going to be the lowest price for what you're looking for. So be careful when they ask for a deal. Be careful when they ask for a luxury experience, because their definition of a deal and a luxury experience may be totally different than yours. What do they like and dislike about their vacation? That's going to help narrow it down. If somebody calls up and they say, right now I'm starting to formulate some ideas of what resorts might fit what they're looking for. When I ask them that question, they say, well, we went to a resort last time. The resort was fabulous. The pool was fabulous. The staff was fabulous. The food was great. But we didn't like the beach, because we like to spend all our time on the beach. We like to walk the beach. We like to sit on the beach. Boom, 3 of what I was going to recommend go out the door, because they don't have the best beaches. So always ask what they like and what they did not like about the last vacation or the last resort that they stayed at. The next one, when did they last vacation? Very critical, because I know we've all gotten it when somebody says, well, I want this and I want it for $3,000, and you're thinking, no way. So you ask them, when did you last vacation? And say, well, that was 10 years ago, and we got it for that price 10 years ago. So now you've got an education process, and you had to educate them. The prices have gone up a little bit since they vacationed 10 years ago. But you would never know that if you didn't know when they last vacationed. And we all do this. Where do you want to go? And they'll tell you where you want to go. A question that is better asked, and along with where do they want to go, is where do they not want to go? Because that's going to eliminate a lot more areas than you think when you say, where do you, I mean, today it eliminates, with everything in the news, it practically eliminates the whole Caribbean. But ask that question, not where do they want to go, but where do they not want to go? And then work from there. And you can, I tell people with the news today, I would never try to convince a client to go somewhere they didn't want to go. And what I've seen through experience is these things, like what happened with the Dominican, are going to come and go based on how much news coverage they get. I mean, last year it was Mexico, and it's interesting. This year, when the Dominican issue came up, we didn't have anybody cancel, but we had virtually everybody move their vacation from the Dominican to Mexico. So it's going to come and go, and my true belief is that only time is going to erase that from people's minds. The other thing, by trying to convince somebody, what if somebody said, I do not want to go there, you convince them to go there, and they had an issue. They got sick, they got hurt, something had happened. Guess who's going to be held liable for that from a legal standpoint? So my recommendation is, don't convince anybody to go where they don't want to go. When do they want to go? Of course you need that. If they say, I can go anytime, and we get that all the time, and we've fallen in that trap, and I'm sure everybody has, is okay, I'll price this date, they can go anytime, I'll price this date. You send them a quote, and they come back and say, oh, well, that, I can go anytime but that date. We all see that. So find out when they want to go, and don't let them just answer you, oh, we can go anytime. Explain, here's another education thing you can do with the client. Explain the different seasons, the various costs associated with those seasons. And when we've done that, we found a lot of people don't understand that prices change based on the season. They think the price is the same regardless of when they go, so they can go anytime. Well, you can't, because you have this budget. Can you go at Christmas? Oh, yeah, we'd love to go. Well, you can't go to Christmas because your budget doesn't fit Christmas. So here's another education moment that you can do to educate those clients on the various travel seasons and the prices associated with that travel season. Is anyone else traveling with them? Another critical point, because this can lead to an upsell, is if they say, well, no, you can ask them, well, is there any of your friends who would like to go on this vacation with you? So boom, now you can get a referral from that client. But the other thing is, especially in groups, And our son Eric fell into it when he first did it. He had a group of about 12 people. He put together pricing from them, making the assumption they were all coming from the same city. He got a nice email back saying, you know, this is great. We love these resorts, but we're all coming from different cities. So if anybody else is traveling with them, combine that with the second one. Where are you or where are they coming from? Because that's critical, especially with groups, because a lot of groups, they don't all come from the same place. So you need to know where they're coming from. Next. Next slide. Hello? Hello?
Joni, are you there?
Next slide.
Geoff, I think we're having technical problems here. Hold on one second. Joni, can you hear me?
Wonder if they dropped off.
Sorry about this, folks. Hold on. Is this the slide you want, or you want the next one?
No, I want, let's see, no, this is the slide I want.
Okay, great.
Yep, where you got there.
Okay.
Okay, so the next qualifying question is how many nights do they want to stay? And that's necessary to price something, but it also comes in another area is, say you get down to this thing and you find out that their budget doesn't fit 7 nights, and that's what they want. You can now negotiate with the client to say, this isn't going to fit 7 nights, but if you can do 5 nights, we could probably do it for that price. So it's kind of a multi-purpose question in answering that, is you do need to know how many nights they want to stay, but you also want to be able to negotiate with them to say, if this doesn't fit, maybe this will fit. The next question is, in their research, are they seeing anything that interests them? And believe me, they are researching it. I don't care what anybody says, they're out researching it. And that's what, you know, you don't need to get upset if they say, oh yeah, well, we saw 5 resorts that really fit what we seem to fit what we're looking at. Now what you can do is you can put on your advisor hat and say, okay, let's go over those resorts. And you can go over the resorts that they see, and you can give them your opinion of that resort. What you're doing is you're doing the qualifying, you're doing the educating, and you're doing the reason, you're helping them with their research. So you're doing a lot of different things by understanding the answer that they get in that question. Now here comes the one that so many people have a lot of trouble asking, is the budget question. Some ways to do that without outright asking the budget is, what amount of money do they not want to exceed? That's a polite way of getting to their budget. You can also use variations of that. We have a young agent that's very young, and she works with people her age, and she says her qualifying question to get to is how much money are you going to give me to spend on your vacation? And it works for her. It makes me cringe, but it works for her. So that's you need to understand the budget. And if you get, and you will get, a lot of people that will say, well, I just want a deal. And they say, well, you know, what's your budget? You know, what do you want to spend on this deal? Well, I just want a deal. Sharon, my wife, has a way of answering that. She will say, I got a great deal for you. It's only $20,000. And they'll say, my God, I didn't want to spend that. Why is that a deal? So, well, it usually goes for $25,000. And they say, well, I don't want to spend that. She'll go down to $15,000, do the same thing. She'll go down to $10,000, do the same thing. Then she'll hit $5,000, say, I get a great deal for you. It's normally $6,000 to $8,000, but it's for you, it's only $5,000. I could do it for $5,000. And the person will say, that's great. That fits with what I'm looking to spend. Sounds like a good deal to me. Let's explore that. Well, what you've done is you've just set their budget. So I don't care if you're a millionaire or if you make $10,000 a year. Everybody has a budget, especially the very rich people, because that's how they got rich, by watching their money. They may not tell you, but they will have a budget. And their budget is going to be based not on the lowest cost. Their budget, when you get in the higher ranks, is going to be based on value. What am I getting for my dollar? I could spend $1 million, but I better get what I want for that $1 million. If I don't, then I don't want to spend $1 million. So that's how they operate as far as their budget is concerned. Are there going to be any other people involved in the decision? And this question came about because, and I'm sure we've all had that, is you're working with the wife or the husband and you're going through the whole process and you're getting them something and you get a call from them one day and they say, oh, I'm sorry, but my husband or my wife didn't know I was doing this, so he went out and bought a vacation already. So you need to know, is there going to be anybody else involved in this decision? And then consequently, the next one, when do you plan on making a decision and purchasing? And what you'll get with a lot of people is, oh, we're just doing research. That's the stage. So that may not be what you want to hear, but at least you have another piece of information to work with. Is let me help you do that research. Let's get to that point where we can get you on this vacation. But at least you know when they're going to make a decision, or they'll say, I want to make it soon. Okay. That's also going to apply where at the end there's a step where you prioritize each one of your opportunities. And that is going to apply in the prioritization of those opportunities. If somebody's not going to make a decision for 2 years, they're probably going to go to the bottom of the priority list. If they're just researching, you're going to help them, but guess what? The ones that are ready to buy something, you're going to go to the top of your priority list. So it's going to help in a bunch of different ideas. What are they seeing in their research? I mean, that's again, basically like the question above is are you seeing anything? What are you seeing? Are they working with anyone else? And that's an appropriate question to ask. Are you working with anyone else? And I've even had a client, when I asked that question, I heard paper shuffling. And I said, can I ask you a question? How many agents did you send this request out to? And she said, well, right now I'm up to about 15 agents. So people are doing that, but you need to know that, because now you can determine, do I want to continue working with this person? Chances are, if they're sending out to 15 agents, you probably don't want to continue working with that person. But again, it gives you a decision point, and it gives you more information that if I end this right now because I don't want, it saved me a lot of work, because I'm not going to compete against 15 other agents. I'm not going to compete against one agent if you're already working with an agent, but I'm certainly not going to compete against 15 different agents. Do they already have prices, and where did they see those prices? And we get that a lot. Oh yeah, I saw a price of this. Okay, and I know that, and again, here's where specialization comes in. You know what a vacation at that resort should cost. And they come in with a ridiculous figure. And this is what I found most of the time is I said, where did you see that? Well, I went on a website and it said, this particular resort prices from $700. I said, okay, let's do this. Let's go through it. I'll go on that. I'll actually get on there and I'll go on that website with them. It says prices from this. I can tell you that when it says from, the air is going to be Fort Lauderdale or Miami. Are you coming from Fort Lauderdale or Miami? Well, no. Okay. This is going to be for these particular dates. This date, is that when you want to go? Well, no. Okay. That is not a price. They're just telling you a range based on where you're coming from and when you want to go. So you need to go through the whole process to get to that price. And a lot of people won't do that. And what happens is they throw away a good opportunity because the client misunderstands what they're really looking at. When you can educate them on that, save that particular opportunity and actually work with that client because you've now educated them. What factors are going to influence their decision on who they book with? Again, another legitimate question. You are critiquing me and deciding whether you want to work with me. What factors are you using to qualify me? And do I meet those particular factors? That's a good discussion to have with the client, an appropriate question, and most of them will tell you. A lot of them, and I'll tell you nowadays, and I know what you're going to say, a lot of them will say price. Well, if you have done your job selling yourself, what you can do for them, go through the qualifying, price is going to be a factor, but it's not going to be the top factor. And the other thing is you can explain to them, and we have a section later on where you do this, you actually go in and say, here's how we're going to operate. We're going to narrow this down to one resort that fits exactly what you're looking and fits within your budget. We will then go out and find the lowest price for that particular resort. It may not be the lowest price resort, but it's going to be the lowest price for the resort that fits your particular criteria. Next slide. Okay. Now, when you're qualifying, what you have to do is determine in your own mind when you get answers to these questions, if any of the answers to questions were unreasonable. So then what you can do is go back and understanding how many nights they want. Did they wanted a 5-star resort? They wanted this. You say, okay, a couple of those are unreasonable. What we can do is, are you flexible on those items? And we can look at different dates. We can shorten the number of nights you go. We can look at a 4-star resort versus a 5-star resort. So that's the time, if any of the answers to the questions were unreasonable, what you need to do is ask that question, are they flexible on those items? So you can adjust that and still make the sale. And here are the examples. I said, unrealistic budget, high price time of the year, A may be lower on certain dates, reduce the number of nights. Are they flexible on any of those items? And if they are, then we can continue to work together. If they're not flexible, again, another point where you can sever that relationship nicely, but sever that relationship with that particular client. If you want to continue, what you need to do is prioritize in your mind. Based on what you heard, where are they going to be? Are they a 5-star potential client? Or are they a 1-star potential client? But you do that in your mind. And now's the time to use a good trial close. And a trial close, one of the classic trial closes is called an if I would you close. And it states that if I can find a resort that fits exactly what you're looking for, on the dates you want to go and is within your price range, are you prepared to move forward with it? That's a trial close. It's known as a trial close because 9 out of 10 times you expect an answer, no, I'm not. And then you can go into, okay, why not? What do you need to do to reach that? But it's going to tell you where the client is, and it's going to bring out objections. People in sales look at objections as a negative. Objections are not a negative. They're an opportunity for you to gather more information from the client by answering those objections, getting agreement until they come down to they don't have any more objections because you've answered all those objections. Now that becomes a more meaningful closing question but if you don't ask that question, you won't know what the objections are. So you've got to answer, you've got to do that trial close, gives you a position of where you stand at that point in time with this particular client. Answer the objections that come out of the trial close. And this is where knowing your product line helps. We're going to transition into product education, which is the next slide. Use this to further sell the client on your product knowledge and experience. So what we're doing through this product through this process is we are qualifying, we're educating, and we're selling the client on our product knowledge, experience. So we're doing those 3 steps through this whole product. And so what you hope to end up with at the end is a client that really believes you're the right person to do business with, that really believes you understand what they're looking for, and really feels comfortable that you're the person to work with. That's the bottom line of what we're trying to do through all these steps. I've even done go online with them and show them examples. They say, we want a 5-star resort. And I say, okay, well, let me go on and show you a couple of these resorts. Is this what you're looking for? We've actually had people say, well, no, that's kind of more than we're looking for. Okay, so what you're really looking for is maybe a 3 or 4-star resort. Or it gives them an idea. You know, you say, well, maybe you can't afford a 5-star, but you can afford a 3-star. And they say, oh, no, that's going to be a dump. You say, well, let me go on and show you some 3-stars. And they'll say, oh, it really isn't as bad as I thought it was, a 3-star. So that's the way you can actually go on. And again, it's demonstrating your knowledge. Use examples such as resorts you visited on trips you plan when you're on fan trips. You know, here's a 3-star resort that's going to give you this, and it's going to be a lot less than that 5-star that you said you wanted, but you really can't afford a 5-star. So use examples. Explain the next step once you've done that and you've educated them on the various products. And why you need to educate them is because you see so many sites where clearly a 3-star resort selling itself as a 5-star resort. And you can prove that by going on to TripAdvisor and looking at some of the bad reviews. And what you'll see for the majority of them is it wasn't a bad resort. It just didn't fit what that person was looking for. So that's where you would use examples. You're going to use your product knowledge. And again, that's where specialization comes in. Because this is a section that, not to brag, but our reps can go through this off the top of their head. They don't need to go do any research. They can cover this section right off the top of their head. So the next step is to explain the step of how you formulate quotes and recommendations. What you're going to do is you're going to explain to the client that we're going to take your criteria that you're looking for, all the information that we gathered during that stage, and we're going to come up with 3 or 4 recommendations. And I recommend not giving a client more than 4 recommendations, or you're going to tend to overwhelm them. We're going to give them 3 or 4 recommendations that fit what they're looking for. We're going to send that to you in a quote with the price. The price is going to include the airfare. It's going to include the transfers and the resort. There will also be a link that you can click and actually see photos of that particular resort. We're going to give you 3 or 4 days to go through that. And then we're going to contact you and we're going to go through that and we're going to narrow that down to a resort that really fits what you're looking for, that we both feel comfortable with. And that's another key thing is when you're working with a client, always use we, like you're in this with them. Don't say you're going to do this, you're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Because now you're showing that this is a partnership. It's not something, it's not me versus you, it's a partnership. So always use that we're going to do this, not you're going to do this. And then explain the process for booking. Is when we book this, all we're going to require is we're going to require your passport names and dates of birth, and we can actually go in and hold that for 24 hours for you to review before you have to put any money down. Once you've decided what you want, that is exactly what you want to do, we only require a down payment, and the balance isn't due until 45 days before you travel. So that's the process of booking. You've explained how you're going to formulate the quote and the recommendations. You've explained the process of booking. And you can even ask them that. Does that sound good to you? Is that all right with you? And they'll either say yes or no. Any no answer, again, is not a negative thing. It's a good thing because it now allows you to go in and get more information. So don't be afraid of a client saying no to something. Even saying no to sale, I don't want to buy that. Okay, can you explain to me why you don't? What are the issues that you're having? And a lot of times what you'll find is it's a misunderstanding. It's not something you do to them. It's completely a misunderstanding. Next slide. So finalize the education and qualification stage. Recap each qualification and educational point that you've made and what both parties have agreed to. Get an agreement on the points that were covered, that yes, those are important, yes, those are going to help us. The more you can get the client saying yes, the more they're going to say yes when you get to the asking the order. Set an appointment for the next step and get an agreement that that's the next step. Never leave a call or an appointment without setting the next appointment or step, and get the client to agree that that's the next appointment and step. And keep that schedule. If you say you're going to get back to them in 2 days, get back to them in 2 days. If you say we're going to set up an appointment for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to meet at the local Starbucks at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I've had so many clients say, well, I called another agency and they said they were busy now. I left a message and they said, we'll get right back to you. It's been 4 days and I've never heard from them. And actually we get that more than you would think. So if you make a commitment, stick to that commitment. But now you recap. So what we've done is we've qualified, we've introduced the client, we've sold ourselves, we've qualified the client, we've educated the client on products, and we've educated the client on our process of quoting them and booking them. And we've got an agreement on those points, and we've set the next step for our next appointment or phone call. Next slide. So what you should do after the call or the appointment, review your notes. And again, in capital letters, take notes. Take notes on every step of the way. My problem is I take notes and I go back to look at it. I'm sure a lot of us do this. And half the notes I can't understand what I wrote. But that's a whole different class. So we're not going to teach that here. In your mind and on paper, prioritize that opportunity. If you have 10 leads and 4 of them want to buy and 6 of them are just in the research stage, guess what? Those 4 are going to go to the top of the priority list, and keep that list right there so you're working them in order of priority. This is what we do. I mean, other people do is send a thank you email, thanking them for the opportunity to work with them. You'd be surprised how much that works. I mean, I actually got a job by doing that. As they went to the interview, and I called back to see where they stood three days from then. And they said, well, you're the only candidate that called back and even checked on it. So send the thing, anything you can do to stay in contact with that client and make yourself stand out from all the other people or all the other potential competition out there, the better position that you put yourself in. Next. In closing, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some sales tips, for just general sales tips. So we're going to look at, first of all, close ratio. The national close ratio for all industries across the United States is 12%, meaning that they're going to close 12 opportunities out of every 100 opportunities they have. A good close rate for travel sales is 25 to 50%. Depending on how qualified the potential client is. So it comes in, the more qualified a potential client is, the higher your close rate's going to be, because you have an opportunity through that process to get rid of the top kickers, the people you don't want to work with, and focus on the ones that are interested. I always say, I want a client that may not be interested in buying something for me, but they're interested and they're serious about buying something, period. Now it's a chance to go in and sell myself and make myself that person that they're going to buy from. So qualify. And the more information you can get, the better. Now you will get, and we've actually had about 3, I'd say, where we start to qualify Like, we should be expert. What we do for education moment. We have to educate them on why we're qualifying. Sharon had one the other day. That's for Hawaii. Well, I just want to go to Hawaii. You tell me where I should go. Not understanding that each island has a different vacation experience, and even within one island, you can have 2 or 3 vacation experiences. So she had to go in and educate them on why answering these is going to get the vacation that's going to meet or exceed their expectations. She did that, and they said, "Oh, okay, now we understand." They think it's because you don't know the product, so they want to. Well, you should know where to send me because you're the expert. You should know all this. When that's not the case at all, so you need to educate them on that. Selling hints: extended elevator speech. Sell yourself before discussing products, because you're qualifying them, but they're qualifying you. So they're not going to be as serious about the information you give them on products until you sold them on using you as the agent and why they should use you, selling them on your experience, your knowledge, your service, and how you're going to be the best person to help them. And use your extended elevator speech. And if you go on Joni and Tom's the homepage of the board, you'll see there's some things that are on there that will help you develop and understand what a good elevator speech is. And an extended elevator speech is just taking that and expounding more on each of the items. Pleasant, friendly, but business-like. Be present, pleasant, friendly, but business-like. Don't be over-friendly. They may eventually turn into a good friend, but business-like is going to get you more, and it's going to not upset as many people. Develop a relationship, a business relationship with that client, and that's what you're doing through this whole process, developing that business relationship. Confidence is a big thing. You know, I've had people talk to me that I know they're lying through their teeth, but they sound so confident, you almost want to believe them. So confidence is huge. I'm not saying lie to the client, but confidence. What you tell them with confidence. Conduct the conversation with confidence. Product knowledge is huge because you don't want to have a client that walks into your home or your office and sits down and they know more about the details of what they want than you do. If they do that, their first thought is going to be, what do I need this person for? So product knowledge is key. Be organized. That's one of the things that a good travel agent has to be. They have to be organized. If you're not organized, what you're going to be doing is sending to Paris, Texas instead of Paris, France. So be organized as a travel agent. Get agreement. When you tell a client something, get agreement that they agree with you or they don't agree with you. Even if they don't agree with you, again, gives you an opportunity to get more information. So get agreement when you cover something with a particular client. Always set the next step and appointment before you leave the current conversation or appointment. Keep time and schedules agreed upon. If they can't count on you showing up for an appointment or for a phone call, how are they going to have confidence that you can plan their travel for them? Sell high and try to sell. Because you can't sell low and then try to sell something higher. Sell high and come down if you have to, and always try to upsell what you've got. But don't sell low and expect the client to buy something that's way higher than what you're trying to sell to the client's budget and desires, not yours. I get that. You know, even my wife, if somebody will want to go to Hawaii for Christmas, and the last one she did was taking a family of 5, and it was $36,000. And her immediate comment to me, why the hell would anybody spend $36,000 to go on a vacation? And I said, well, obviously they do. So they want to sell to the client's budget and desire. And that's a basic thing in travel and in sales. Ask for the order, ask for the order, ask for the order. You can't ask for the order more times. Just keep asking for the order, but make it asking a hard thing. A lot of salespeople go through the whole ask for the order. And if you've gone through every step, asking for the order is just the next logical step. So ask for the order, because if you sit back and wait, 9 out of 10 clients aren't going to buy if you just sit back and wait for them to buy. Set the correct expectations for the client. So many of the reviews, again, that I read on TripAdvisor is because the correct expectations were not set by either the client booking themselves or somebody selling it to them. That is the basis of our job, is setting the correct expectations for our client. What we tend to do is slightly undersell and over-deliver. That way we're assured our client is going to have a good experience. And if we've done the steps of qualifying correctly, we know exactly what they want. So we can slightly undersell that, but it's going to over-deliver what the client was looking for. And I think that's the last slide.
Well, can you hear me, everybody?
Yep.
Can you hear me, Geoff? Okay, cool. So that was awesome, Geoff. Thank you so much. That was really incredible. Actually, due to the time restraints, we aren't going to be able to take questions right now because we're gone a little bit over time, but it was so worth it to get all that information, Geoff. It was great. I think you pretty much answered all the questions, throughout the content, especially in your overview at the end. It was fantastic. I thank you so much, my friend and my colleague, for this. And from Travel Professional News, from Tom and Andy and I, you are a dear friend and an amazing colleague, and we really appreciate all that you do for us. And Sandy, I know you've been in the background helping me out with all the issues that I've been having here on this technological side, and thank you, my dear friend, for that. So everybody,
my pleasure.
oh, it's been wonderful to have. Knowing you're back there just really helped everybody. You have no idea how having a friend on the East Coast when you're on the West really helps out in a webinar. But enough of that. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here. Geoff, thank you.
Can I just say that last
sure.
slide you have, if anyone does have any questions or additional questions or needs help with anything, feel free to email me at that address.
Wow.
And I'd be more than happy to help you.
Very nice of you, Geoff. I know you're a very busy man, so that's really sweet of you. Well, everybody, thank you again on behalf of Travel Professional News and Travel Professional Community for being here. We did record this webinar, and it'll appear on Travel Professional News probably in about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours, somewhere in that vicinity. So again, have a wonderful day, everybody. Stay cool wherever you are. It's hot just about everywhere. And thank you again.